All right, ladies and gentlemen, automotive enthusiast friends from every single nook and cranny of this giant planet that we call Earth, you did it once again. You lost control of your finger and you pushed go on yet another...
Kevin, yet another sempiternal episode of V8 Radio.
Sempiternal?
That's right. Means everlasting.
Oh, all right. Well, as long as nobody erases it, I guess that's true.
Pretty much. Yeah, once it's on the internet, it's forever.
Well, that's good and bad. It is a sempiternal episode of VA Radio. I'm your host, Kevin Ostie, joined as always by our esteemed co-host, Mr. Mike Cuball Clark. And what's shaking, Bacon, over
there? Well, enjoying a little bit of weather. Took the old hot rod out for a spin the other day during my lunch hour and just put some miles on it and just enjoyed it. Having a good time.
How's the GTO doing?
It's pretty good. It starts right up. It drives. It runs great. So I'm going to be bringing it down to the shop here fairly soon for one of my visits. Not this one, but maybe the next one.
Right on. You still fighting a leak?
I'm always fighting leaks. I have not replaced the transmission pan yet, so that is something that I definitely will be doing.
You know what would fix that would be an LS engine.
That
actually stands for leak stopped. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh God! It would fix my pride too. I couldn't deal with that. Oh man!
No, you certainly couldn't, and I wouldn't do that either. But I got to take the opportunity to get a jab in there.
Yeah, appreciate that. You're all heart, man.
Yeah, and so for those who know the show, they certainly know the trials and tribulations of Mike's GTO, but they also know that we start all these episodes with an automotive trivia question. And we throw the question out in the beginning of the episode, and then the riveting answer occurs at the end, and it's just a really nice payoff for investing the time into tuning into the VA Radio podcast. Oversold that.
Yeah.
Did you, in fact, generate a trivia question for us?
I did. In fact, I generated a 4-part trivia question.
Oh, my goodness.
That's right. Get buckle up, boys and girls. We're going for a ride. So on last episode, we talked about the GTO a little bit and the bi-sply tires that I put on it and how terrible they ride and handle and all that. And that got to me. Cool. Yeah, they look dynamite. But that got me thinking about radial tires and what they're all about. So my 4-part question to you, Kev, and listeners: what tire company patented and produced the first radial tire? And part 2 to that is what year was it developed? Mm-hmm. And part 3 is
what was the name of the tire?
What year did it appear on cars? Mm-hmm. And part 4, what car company did this tire company own at the time?
Mm-hmm.
So riddle me that.
Wow, that's good stuff right there.
Yeah. So what tire company patented and produced the first radial tire? We'll take them one part at a time here.
And so the company's going to be the same, right, for all these answers?
Well, yeah.
Or are these 4 different?
They're all part of the same answer, yes.
All right, so if I was smart, I would say what car company was at one point owned by a tire company, and I'll get all these right.
Well, there's still years that you have to get. What year was it developed? What year did it appear on cars?
Yeah, and what car company? So this goes back a long time, and obviously because of the technology as well, and this goes back to most likely a pretty niche, smaller car company, because I don't think Ford was ever owned by anybody but Ford Motor Company, right? Although there was...
I don't know.
Harvey Firestone was his buddy, and they used to race together and all that jazz. Did Firestone have a controlling interest in Ford at some point. That comes to mind, but then also as far as the development of the radio, I think Michelin comes to mind. But Michelin, did they own a car company? At some point. This is a good one. I don't know. I don't really know. So I know that early tire technology was very competitive, and I want to say that it was an American company that developed the radio, even though I think Michelin has always been kind of on the forefront of rubber technology and tire technology, but our friends at Goodyear certainly were too. Same with Firestone here in the U.S., maybe even Bridgestone. But then there was some tires that don't exist anymore, and then there were some others that were really big back then, your Coopers and whatnot, that might not come to mind immediately. General's been around for over 100 years now, right? And so has Continental. So they might have had something to do with this.
So many possibilities.
Yeah, so many possibilities. But I don't know that Continental owned any car companies. I don't know that General did either, unless it was some really small little thing. I don't know, dude. This is a tough one.
Dang.
Yeah. Okay. So number 1 is who, number 2 is when, number 3 is when on a car, and number 4 is what car company.
Correct. You're correct so far on everything.
I was correctly able to repeat the question.
Yes. Congratulations.
Hey. Saying a lot on this one. All right. So I'm just going to say it was Michelin. That was my first thought. So there you go. Okay. I'm going to say the technology was invented in, I'm going to say it was invented in the 30s. We're going to say 1937. We're not going to say it appeared on a vehicle. It was widespread in the late 60s, but that isn't necessarily where it came out first. So I'm going to say early 50s. It was actually installed, and possibly on my guess of a Michelin, could have been a French car like a Peugeot or a Citroen, possibly a German car. I'm going to say 1952. And the last one was, what car company did the tire company own? I don't really have a clue. Unless it's something really screwy like a Maxwell or some kind of steam car, from the early 1900s. Did the tire company own the car company when the radio was introduced?
Yes, I will tell you that.
Darn it. This is a tough one, man. I don't know. Maybe Michelin owned Citroen at some point, and it was in the early 50s. That's what I'm going to say, because good night already.
All right. So you said Michelin developed the radio in 1937, showed up on cars in 1952, and that's Michelin owned Citroen.
That's what I'm going to say.
That's what you're going to say. Final answer.
Yeah.
All right, man. Duly noted. Ooh, I like this one.
This could be my first bases loaded strikeout. 4 wrong in one shot.
Oh, right. Man. We'll find out at the end of the show.
Yeah. Okay. So my question to you is, I'm going to guess at some point in your life you had the artwork or imagery of Marcello Gandini on your wall. What was it, and who is he?
Oh, my Lord. Marcello Gandini?
Correct.
All right. Okay. All right, so if I would have had some, obviously it's something automotive themed. So if I was going to have something on my walls, it would have been a poster
Well, of course,
of a car.
Everything on this show is automotive.
Absolutely, always. It's all about cars all the time, everywhere.
All the time.
Man. That's right. We never stray. We never stray from the topic.
To the commenter who said the show wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, man. We read these comments, people.
We read that one.
All right, so Marcello Gandini. I'm gonna say he was a photographer, and I'm going to say that he photographed the quintessential Lamborghini Countach that every kid was issued in the suburbs back in the 1980s.
Wow, that's a great memory.
Yeah.
The Lamborghini Countach. Yeah, there could be a triple bonus in there if you unrelated know what Countach means.
Oh, you probably asked me this one time before, and I didn't know then, and I don't remember now.
Right on. Okay, so your final answer, the photographer who shot the Lamborghini Countach poster that was on every kid's wall.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Final answer.
All right. We'll find out.
Oh, good times.
At the end of the
good
show.
times.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, I'm glad that you were able to get the GTO out and on the road again. Obviously, springtime's coming up. You know what's coming up super fast this year that is different, kind of unusual? The Street Machine Nationals are in May.
Holy cats.
Moved up in some cases, like a month and a half.
Wow. Are you going to be out there?
At DuQuoin. I don't know. I would like to, but I'm not sure because I've been, as we speak right now, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Right.
I've been doing some working remotely and attending to some family stuff, looking after my mom out here. But the organizers at Bonnier and I were chatting about the Street Machine Nats and DuQuoin and some of the stuff that's coming up that I am most likely going to miss. But I will say that our esteemed cohort, Mr. Brian Wibbenmeyer from V8 Speed and Resto, will be there.
Yes, he will be there. He's everywhere.
Yeah, he's the king of the swap meet.
He is the king of the swap meets. I want to go just to see a swap meet set up.
Yeah, well, they say they're going to have, 40 or 50 booths out there, and he's going to be, a quarter of that probably.
Right on.
So if you want to head out to DuQuoin, say hi to Brian. They did add a few other things this year to the event. There's a kids zone now. That could be a tough event for young kids. Because the Street Machine Nationals historically, they were known as the horsepower picnic. They've been known as, kind of the epicenter of Pro Street. It's nicer that they're earlier this year because it can get really hot and really sticky and rain.
Sure.
And if you got a young kid, they might get bored kind of quickly. But this year they added a whole kid zone to the thing. Recognizing that some of these kids are now like the third generation of attendees.
Oh, right.
that have been going to the
sure.
show for a long time, maybe fourth. So they've got a 9-hole mini golf course. They got a mini racetrack for Hot Wheels and Matchbox cars. And they're going to be doing coloring contests and all kinds of stuff. And it's fun because the DuQuoin Tourism Commission finally got involved with the event. Instead of in previous years being, kind of resistant to the thousands of people that come to this thing. I mean, there's going to be over 1,000 hot rods and street machines and pro street cars. And now they're like, how can we really, help promote this thing? Let's do something for the kids. So that was nice of the tourism board.
That's cool. Kind of keep the next generation interested.
Yeah, or at least, entertained through it, which is the first step.
Right. For sure.
And like I said, it's always a great way to see some of the Pro Street legends up close and in person. A lot of those cars go there, And over the past couple of years, they really stepped up their game on the show. The awards for all the different classifications of cars there. There's a company called Cold Hard Art, owned by a guy named Tom Patsis, who has created over 100 awards that'll be presented. He's the guy that does some of the major awards for the NHRA. So these are hand fabricated and machine fabricated, welded steel, painted, killer looking awards. So it's definitely not a plastic Chinese trophy event.
Sure.
So a lot of cool reasons to go. I would recommend streetmachinenationals.net for all of the information on how to get a ticket and all that jazz. And then if you miss that one, Minnesota is also coming up this summer too.
That's true. So in July, I believe.
Yeah, and that's also on the website. So, so it just seems to me like by moving that event up, it kind of moved the needle forward on the event season. It's happening rapidly, which is great. Love to see stuff happening.
I do love to see stuff happening, and I would love to. I wish I could go to that show, but I will miss it this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, it kind of falls right in the middle of when you are going to be down at the shop at V8 Speed and Resto.
Right. Yeah, it does. That's all right, though. There's other things. I would like to come down to that Firebird Fest that is held in was it in Waterloo or Waterloo?
Yeah, that one of the stops is in Waterloo. That event happens in a bunch of different locations, and Waterloo, Illinois, has been one. The little town where I live, and Waterloo's a cool little city. They got a nice little town square there, and some nice restaurants and bars, and it's a great setting for a car show. And Firebird Fest has come the past few years, and it's cool that they do that. So yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Another one that's coming up is the Hot Rod Power Tour is coming right into my backyard this year.
Oh yeah, so the cue ball deck is one of the stops officially now?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's that close. It's going to be at the Route 66 Raceway in Joliet, Illinois, about 10 miles from my house.
So you're doing that?
Yeah, I am. I'm taking the day off. I'm going to hang out there that day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Is your buddy Robert with his Galaxy going to join you?
His Galaxy isn't quite on the road right now, but he's probably going to hop in my passenger seat and drive out there with me.
It's only fitting you hopped in his passenger seat once on
That's
Power
true.
Tour, right?
Yeah.
What's going on with his Galaxy?
Well, he's trying to get it. It's been kind of not running for a few years, and this year said I'm doing it this time. And he went to change the oil, and when putting in the oil pan drain plug, he stripped out the pan. So he thought, I think it's good. And he filled it with oil, and then the next day he had a big oil slick under his car. So he's got to get that fixed.
Okay, so we've got 2 months?
Something like that, yeah.
All right, he can fix it.
Yeah, he can fix it. I'm like, you can helicoil it. You can do it. It's fine. You can do this. So
I'll never forget one time Kelly and we still lived in California. I was still at Hot Rod, and we're doing some work on the Galaxy. And it was oil change time, and Kelly had over-enthusiastically tightened the drain plug.
Oh.
Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Just making sure that it was going to...
It wasn't too tight. The threads were just too weak, that's all.
It wasn't loose. The fastener was not left loose, put it that way. And but the fix, I tried and successfully used I think it was a Permatex brand thread repair kit that is it's like an epoxy based.
Really?
Yeah, and the trickiest part about it is cleaning the hole.
Right.
And you carb cleaner it or brake clean, some kind of solvent, clean the hole. And then you literally just fill the hole with this 2-part goo and thread the bolt in.
Really?
And I think there might be a little release agent you put on the screw itself, on the plug, and you let it set up, and you're done.
Oh my!
And, it's funny because I want to say I wouldn't rely on that for a permanent repair forever, but it lasted for years on my car.
Wow.
Yeah. And then it was funny because I thought once, we started V8 TV and the V8 Speed and Resto shop, actually when it was still in our very first V8 TV shop on Kelly's dad's farm, I thought, all right, I'm going to fix this for real, and I'm going to weld this thing up. Mm-hmm. And I drilled it out, and then I was going to weld a nut insert into it because it was a little bit weird size for a helicoil.
Okay.
And I was kidding myself to think I could successfully MIG weld an oily pan on the engine. So it just, popcorn sputtered and just made a giant mess. And then I had to, run a bead around it again. So the weld is getting bigger and bigger, and I got this like 3-inch beehive on the bottom of the bottom of the oil pan. It took that to finally get it to seal, and then I ran the bolt in it with a new gasket, and it was done until eventually I put another pan on it and called it a day, and fixed it for real. But
speaking of pans, you would know better than anybody. Can you remove that oil pan with the engine still in there? Or do you got to lift the engine up to get it to clear the cross member?
So he's got a 390 in his or 352?
352. It's an FE.
Yeah, 352. You just got to look and see.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, that's probably a rear sump, and he can probably lift. Do you have a hoist at your house?
I do not.
You guys have a parts store? You might be able to rent one.
Yeah, probably. My buddy Randy has one.
Randy's got one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it might be as easy as just putting a little stress on it, on the, throw a chain on the motor and just kind of stretch the mounts a little bit, and you might be able to slip it out of there.
Ah, okay.
Don't quote me on that, because the frame on a 60, his is a 65, right, or 6?
66, yeah.
6, yeah. That's totally different from what's under my 62.
That's right.
And then I also have a 351, which was different than the FE.
Well, it originally had a 390, didn't it?
It did, yeah. But my recent oil pan repair was on the 351 on the motor mount. So we made when I did the swap, so it's different. That one comes out pretty easily. So
I see.
I don't need to lift the engine to get the pan out on my car.
Okay.
So he might get lucky on that. But the 352, the FE is a pretty big engine, and they tried to sit him down kind of lower the front cradle.
Right. All right.
But, look and see if that thread repair thing for the oil, it's made for oil pans because it's made to bond in that environment of trace amounts of oil, and see if it still exists. You might be good enough to go the 10 miles to Joliet and back.
Yeah, maybe. All right. I'll turn them on to that, see if it works.
Otherwise, you still got a month and a half. You can put a pan in that thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, all day.
Yeah, I don't know if I would helicoil it in place with worried about getting shavings in the pan.
Yeah, there's that too. Yeah, there's no brilliant answer for this, but
if you did that, right? If you elected to fix the threads in place. I'm going to put a disclaimer out there, friends. Don't try this at home.
But
if you get adventurous, I've had success with doing that and tapping a pan a long time ago. And then I just changed the transmission fluid. Mm-hmm. And I took the transmission fluid that came out of the transmission and dumped it in the engine.
Really?
With the drain plug open.
Oh, so it just flushes it out.
Just used it as a flush.
Oh, interesting.
And it was enough volume to kind of, and transmission fluid's great. It's a great cleaner.
Yeah.
Used transmission fluid, not as much. So if I remember correctly, I ran like the 12 or 10 quarts of trans fluid through the engine, let that drip for an hour, and then I took another bottle of fresh transmission fluid, dumped it in the engine, and then I think I put regular engine oil in it, and I think I changed that oil within a few hundred miles. So I put like cheap, organic, 2050 or something in just to flush out the transmission fluid and all the rest of that, and then I put regular oil back in it. Yeah, don't try it at home. But
this is for informational purposes only.
Well, I had a friend of mine who would, and they used to do this in the old days, man. When carburetors, before fuel injection and engines got carboned up, and a lot of people don't remember what that was all about, but because of chokes and because of driving habits, valves would get coated in carbon deposits, and rings would, because they ran rich when you first started them up, and they were cold because of the choke. And a lot of times, if you just drove to, the grocery store and back or whatever, these internal parts would get covered in carbon. And they used to talk about, blowing them out. You'd get on the highway and rev the crap out of it, and you'd actually see, like sparklers coming out your tailpipe, because the carbon pieces would flake off and burn.
Sure.
And my dad, when he was in the Air Force, he used to repair flathead powered generators, and they would get gummed up with carbon, and they would water inject them. They would literally dump water into the carburetor while it's running.
Nice.
And open it wide open, and not a lot, but that cold water would fracture the
steam clean
carbon.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. But what a lot of people did also was, when they're ready to change the oil, before they drained it, they would add a quart of trans fluid and run it.
I've heard of that.
So, and they might have had to pour off a quart of engine oil, so it didn't pour out of the valve covers
Overfill,
or anything. Yeah. And that was pretty good. Sometimes it worked too well, and it would like ruin ring seals, and you'd have less compression when it's done, because sometimes you need that carb. In the old engines that were lead fuel, that lead would help the seal on the valves, and if you knocked all that out of there, you could cause some problems too. But so the idea of transmission fluid in the engine oil pan is not completely foreign, although it sounds kind of strange. But
well, it sounds kind of cool though. Sounds like some cool old hot rodder trick.
Yeah, my concern with running it with transmission fluid in the oil is it doesn't have the lubricity of engine oil, and it's not designed to take the impact that a rod bearing does.
Sure, that makes sense.
And you could scuff bearings and get in deep trouble pretty quickly if you're not.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Because it's a hydraulic fluid, it's not an oil.
Right.
This is still under the disclaimer, by the way.
Hey, understood.
So don't drain all the engine oil, fill 5 quarts of trans fluid, and run the car. That's a no-fly right there.
Right.
But
for sure,
a little bit on the top probably won't hurt anything. But
yeah, right on.
So I would say the parts store 2-part epoxy drain plug repair number 1, and then if that doesn't do it, do a helicoil and flush the pan right away.
Yeah.
So there you go.
I will bring that up to him. Thank you.
You already did. He listens, right?
Oh, he does listen. Bobby, listen. Do this.
Yeah. We've effectively planned Robert's springtime.
Yes. Right on. All righty. All right.
Well, the other thing that's been kind of getting me revved up out here in Scottsdale is, I love the Southwest. I always have.
Same.
I've always been drawn to the the Roadrunner show cartoon, with all the crazy land formations and the saguaro cactuses and cacti and all that stuff. And where my mom lives, that's it. This is the environment. So that's cool to see right away. But it's also, nothing rusts out here, so you get a lot of cool old cars on the road. And at the same time, there's a lot of really high-end cars driving around. I think I sent you a text one day. I was following a McLaren and a high-end Bentley Bentley Fastback, and every type of exotic, Lamborghini, Ferrari, a lot of Lamborghini SUVs driving around out here.
Really? Dang.
Yeah. So it's like a constant car show driving around, it's fun. It's cool to see.
Sounds cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I was actually thinking today, there's an intersection, I think it's Deer Valley and Scottsdale Road. It's a T where Deer Valley ends at Scottsdale Road. And if Deer Valley continued, it would go straight into the desert. I mean, it's like the civilization ends. And that scene I described with, Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner out there.
Sure.
That starts right there. And there's mountains in the background and tumbleweeds and cactuses and all this stuff. And I thought, some of this is like BLM land, the Bureau of Land Management. So it's like, it's ours. It's public land.
Sure.
Some is privately owned. I don't know about that exact spot. But I thought it'd be pretty cool to just cruise out there for a while.
Dude, you are speaking my language.
Yeah, just whip out a couple of lawn chairs and a cooler and maybe grill a steak and listen to some tunes. And and I thought, so what would be the vehicle for that?
Oh golly, what would be the vehicle? A vehicle you have now, or just in general?
Well, I mean, if we're creating this little ideal scenario, what would it be? What would you want to do it in? And, looking back at my, dilapidated quasi mini fleet of junks, I don't
My quasi mini fleet of dilapidated junk. That's awesome. I love that.
That was being a little harsh, but what I've personally never owned, I realized, is a four-wheel drive truck.
Oh.
Now, my wife has, of course.
Of course.
Her daily driver is that, diesel Silverado long bed crew cab, four-wheel drive HD truck. And I love it. It's great. It's very comfortable. It's a towing machine,
For sure.
But it's such a long wheelbase, it's not something that you really want to go off-roading with.
Sure. That makes sense.
So I started to think, and of course at V8 Speed and Resto, our shop is notorious for building vintage, cool stuff with modern drive lines and technology and accoutrement.
Right.
So I thought, what would be it, and my mind started to wander a little bit, and where I landed was SUV style, closed in the back. I thought maybe a 3-door Suburban, and then I thought, man, it's still a little big, but how about that late 70s Cherokee Chief?
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew a kid that had one when I was in grade school, right? And it was orange with the black graphics and trim on it.
Sure.
And I think it had a 304 AMC V8, four-wheel drive. But if you ripped all that out and put a, like a 5.3 in it, and maybe on like a 35-inch tire with some black rims and
that would be dope.
Vintage air, wouldn't it? It'd be killer.
Yeah.
It'd be comfortable, and you could drive it. You could put like a 410 gear in it with that tire and still get decent, with an overdrive.
Yeah.
And tint the windows and throw your fun stuff in the back and just head out in the desert.
Sure, man. I'm down with that. That or maybe a K5 Blazer would foot the bill nicely.
Yeah, and that'd be cool because you could pop the top off of that too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Put a rack on it with some lighting and a winch.
All right.
It'd be fun.
It would be fun. God, that would be great. Because I do love the Southwest as well. I lived in Arizona for just a few months after I graduated high school. I lived in Phoenix. And man, where we lived, it was very underdeveloped, and it was just raw land as far as the eye could see. And I loved it. It was beautiful. Man.
But, that's the deal. So, getting some different ideas on stuff and just kind of looking forward to being able to to get out and enjoy some motoring fun soon here.
We definitely need it.
That's for sure. Well, and not to go too far down the road, but my mom's having some health issues, and helping her out with all that, and that's what kind of stirred the thought process about doing that video that I released. About the scenario of what happens to your cool classic car if something happens to you, right? And I think that's the actual name of the video. You can find it on our website at v8speedshop.com/legacy, actually. And in my case, my dad owned the Galaxy that Kelly and I have, and he literally called me up one day and said, "Come pick this car up because it tried to burn my house down, and if you don't get it from me, I'm going to push it over a cliff." So I knew right away that it wasn't gonna get away, but we see it all the time at the shop where people call us and they say, "Hey, I inherited this car. Is it worth anything?" Or the other side of it is, some guy had this car and he passed and his family didn't know what to do with it, and I bought it super cheap and whatever. So the whole point of that video, it comes along with a form you can fill out that helps you articulate your wishes for your classic cars and articulate what they are, so that if it's going to be inherited by somebody, they know what they're getting and they understand the value and they know where the parts are and all that stuff. Or if they're not into it, they can at least get the most value if they go to sell it to kind of help the family. So that was the whole point behind that. Yeah,
and a lot of people don't give that a whole lot of thought. Maybe some people have the attitude, well, what do I care? I'm going to be dead. But,
for sure.
But if it is something that is important to the family, then you should do something to make sure that it stays in the family.
And I think really we don't want to think about that stuff, and especially when it comes to the car, because that's where we go in our mind, our happy place. It's like, I don't want to let go of this thing, and I don't want, sometimes the thought of somebody else driving my car is like really not good for morale.
Right. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, we have to think and be realistic that, we are just the caretakers of these cars while we're here. They're going to be here as long as they're not smashed to bits. They're going to be here after we're gone. So to ensure that something happens that is positive after you're gone, and make sure that it stays, what happens to the car is what you want to have happen to the car, or your stuff after you're gone. I think that's a responsible thing to do.
Yeah, and the stuff is an important one too, because how many times have you seen people going through boxes of trim and they're just throwing it away, and it went to a particular car, and you try to find this stuff for a living, so it's like, man.
Why did you throw that away?
That's right. You had no idea what it was, and that was the problem.
Yeah, for sure.
And really, at the end of the day, you want what's best. If you have family, you want what's best for the family. And if your heirs aren't into the car, maybe they'd be into the 20 or 50 or 100 grand that the car is actually worth to help their families out. And that's what you want. And the car gets moved on to somebody who values the car itself as much as you did and is going to get that enjoyment as well. You're
for sure
sharing all that good stuff. So,
for sure. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, that's a lot to think about.
Well, that's, hopefully that little form that I created helps people sort those thoughts out and prompts them to remember some stories and some info about the cars, so that, whoever is next can have that info and the story. You're a story guy. I'm a story guy. Most car guys are story guys. We need to know. We geek out over where it was bought new and, who had it before and all that stuff. And if that information doesn't get passed on, it's kind of, it's a bummer, insignificant cars are interesting.
Yeah, they sure can be. So, yeah, even your 83 Chevette could have a cool story behind it.
Well, and I was telling you before that I had found an artifact from my dad. He bought, in 1960, he bought a 60 Dodge. He drove that for 2 years, and then he traded it for the 62 Galaxy two-door hardtop, and he drove that for 2 years and traded it for a 64 Dodge four-door, and he had that for a few years. In fact, that's a car that he had in his wedding. But he always regretted selling the Galaxy, so in the early 90s, we convinced him to get another one, and that's the car that I have today.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember him telling me about this Dodge. I knew nothing about this car outside of it was like rose-colored, and it was Polera, and it was in his wedding. It's really all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And then a couple of weeks ago, at my mom's house, I find the CertiCard from that Dodge.
Oh, wow.
In a box of old business cards. And the CertiCard is the Mopars used to have this little plastic credit card looking thing that slipped into a pocket behind the core support. And when you pulled into the dealership, they would whip that little card out and look at it and run it through one of those roller card machines. You know? And it had the owner's name, it had the warranty information, it had the VIN, and some of the info on the car. Well, my dad bought that car new, and his name is on the CertiCard.
That
and
is
his old
crazy.
Address.
I love it. That is amazing.
And I did a quick VIN code and found out that this was a four-door 318 four-barrel Polera, 64 Polera, that if it was a two-door would have been super hot. But it was cool. Now I know a little bit more about it,
Yeah.
And I never knew that while he was alive. It took me, and he passed away 13 years ago almost.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like all of a sudden I came across this thing. So again, that kind of funneled into this thought of, well, if I had him fill out some of these forms about all this cool stuff that he owned over the years, maybe I could launch an automotive podcast and tell stories about it.
Maybe. Dare to dream, my friend. That's a lofty goal.
I know it is. Aim for the stars and keep both feet on the ground.
Feet on the ground. It's funny. I texted that very saying to my younger daughter, Abby. She went on these internship interviews in Chicago. She goes to the University of Illinois right now, and she's just a freshman, and they have these internships, and she was nervous because Google's going to be there and all kinds of stuff, and I said, well, keep your feet on the ground, but keep reaching for the stars. You're going to be fine.
That's it.
Yeah, so of course she didn't respond to that, but...
well, now she's telling all her friends how insightful her dad is.
Right.
You should see what he texted me.
Yeah. I think he knew Casey Kasem.
She probably doesn't have any clue who Casey Kasem was.
Not a clue. Absolutely
She
not.
thought you came up with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll let her keep thinking that. For sure. For sure. That was the non-automotive portion of the show, kids. So back to the regular programming.
Yeah, right. Engines, cars, and horsepower.
Yeah, carburetors, NOS,
Right.
all that stuff.
Man.
Oh, boy. Good times.
Having fun with old cars. That was Gray Baskerville's standard response when people would say, "Hey, Gray, how you doing? What's going on?" Just having fun with old cars. That was his thing.
Nice.
Having fun with old cars. Yeah, I love that.
That's
Another
cool.
T-shirt that needs to be made.
Oh, for sure. You're the guy to do it.
What, I own a T-shirt shop? Or?
Well, you got the connections.
All right. I will get on that.
Well, our friend Cliff Canand, he made that that van, the ostentatious T-shirt.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
that was pretty cool. Cliff is a brilliant artist, and he did that rendering of my van, the cartoon image, and made it look kind of like an ad with the text below it, because he was an advertising guy, and that was his deal. So, yeah, that was cool. Along those lines, our good friend Murray Comant is working hand in hand with our team member Ziggy Sadler, and they came up with a really cool 69 Ford Cobra concept.
Oh, really?
Have you been privy to this conversation yet?
I've heard that they were doing it, but I haven't seen the concept.
Yeah, so we recently brought in a 69 Cobra, which is a 428 formal roof version of the Fairlane, and we were going to restore this car, and it turned out to be hiding a lot of secrets and a lot of structural damage and rust and stuff. So we've been on the hunt for another one of those cars, and they're pretty hard to find. So chatting with the owner, we learned that his motivation is not necessarily a perfect numbers matching original R code 428 Cobra. Mm-hmm. He's open to something that maybe has some modifications done and better steering and better brakes and maybe a little more power and something he can really, drive hard. So Ziggy is a big time Ford guy. Done a lot of Mustangs and stuff when he was in Australia. So he got pretty inspired and came up with a concept of, I'm not going to share the whole story, but the short version is, what if there was a Skunk Works program that had like a Boss motor in it or a Cammer motor in it in 69 in a lightweight Fairlane formal roof with better suspension and bigger tires and better brakes that ran laps around the actual Shelby cars and then got banned and banished to a barn somewhere. And maybe we found that car, right? So that is the impetus. So envision something that is a solid color, like a dark green or maybe a dark maroon with a slightly upsized body-colored steel wheel and caps on a lower aspect ratio but wider tire, lowered suspension, maybe an aluminum like little chin spoiler and maybe a little aluminum ducktail on the back, riveted on, with buckets and a 5-speed and maybe a 4-point cage with a little bit of a harness and maybe a Kazi Boss 9 under the hood with an 8-stack injection, right?
Yeah.
It'd be wicked. So I got wind of this and I said, this is great. Run with it. So him and Ziggy and Murray Comant, our in-house designer who's out of house because he's in Canada. the two of them got on the phone, and our Murray is now sketching this thing out and is going to do some renderings of concept designs that we can present to the owner. But I'm just super excited about the car. I think it's going to be super cool. So
yeah, that sounds killer.
Yeah,
man. Huh?
It sounds killer because it's got great stuff in the right places, and it's not going to appear overdone. It's pretty purposeful, high performance, understated, which, I love that kind of stuff. So we'll see. Hopefully the owner digs it, and we get a chance to do this car in that fashion. We'll find out.
Right on. We'll keep you posted, kids.
Yeah. Because, it's always fun when somebody comes to us and they say, hey, I want to do a car, but I'm not really sure. What would you guys do? Mm-hmm. Okay, what would we do? Hell,
have a seat. Let's talk.
Lean back a little bit and say, I'll tell you what I would do. And in this case, it's like, okay, well, let's see it. So that's fun.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, you have a pretty good imagination and definitely have a good sense of what's cool. And I think a lot of the things that you come up with are pretty well received, so it's nice that we have that resource.
Well, I appreciate that. I'd like to think so. Just being around stuff long enough, you start to build that little library internally in your head of like a little bit of this one, a little bit of theme from that one, a little bit of this, and I always like to try to connect a time period together. And but what was really cool was I didn't have anything to do with the influence of this particular car. This was all Ziggy. And Brian and a little, Trevor had some input on it, and, Joe in the shop, and those guys were all like, they whipped it up, and I intentionally, and I told those guys, and I told Murray, I'm not in this one. Do it. Let's see what you got.
Cool,
I love
man.
that. I love to be able to see what other people come up with, especially when it's super cool, and this one is.
This one is, yeah. That sounds like a great concept car. And I love the story behind it. The kind of the faux story and the equipment that you're looking at equipping it with. So, yeah.
I think Ziggy was talking about a Detroit Speed Alumaframe front suspension.
Oh, right.
Which we've done. It's made for the Mustang, but it's pretty easily adaptable to other cars. One of the best adaptations of a Detroit Speed Alumaframe, by the way, I saw was in a 71 Cuda.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, some guys cut the towers and the K-frame out of a Cuda and put one of those Alumaframes, and it fit right in.
Wow.
As far as the track width, and they made a motor mount, and I think it still had a 3, maybe a late model Hemi in it or something, but yeah, it's fun. It's hot rodding, taking stuff that wasn't supposed to fit together and make it fit together.
Yes, exactly. That's the cool part about it, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man. Oh boy. So, what's next on your agenda for the Galaxy?
Well, as I reported last time, the horn works, and it still does, and that's cool.
Good deal. That's amazing.
It is amazing. I need to wash it, and I need to drive it. Actually, as we were talking before about lifting engines, the 351 that's in the Galaxy, we installed. When I say we, I mean I had a little bit to do with it, but it was done by a guy named Ed Marsh at Windsor Fox Performance. He did the EFI conversion on it long before I knew how to do that, and he basically it's got a rubber motor mount biscuit from like a 93 F250, just a rubber motor mount.
Sure.
And I started to notice an exhaust rattle last year, and in fact I think I sent you an audio clip of that on the phone. I heard this god-awful sound. I thought it was a torque converter coming apart. And you're like, that kind of sounds like an exhaust rattle. Mm-hmm. And I think what I've determined, the Galaxy is a convertible, so it's got a perimeter frame, but it's also got this big X that goes through the middle,
right,
for support. And the exhaust goes through the X through holes. And there's not a lot of clearance around those holes.
Sure.
And I think my motor mounts, after two and a half decades, are finally compressing and causing that pipe to rattle on the frame.
I gotcha. Yeah, 2.5 decades? What a piece of junk.
I know.
Finally started compressing. Jeez Louise.
That's it. Yeah, I don't drive it hard enough, is what that means.
Right. Henry Ford II or whoever's in charge over there, a sternly worded letter.
I think it's Bill at this point.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, so I have to take my own advice and lift up the motor and swap those mounts out, and I think really that's all I'm going to do right now, and it's going to be ready for the season again, because it's been
very nice.
Again, cleaning the MAF sensor and putting a horn in was my major projects, and
dig it.
It still starts right up, idles perfect. It's doing its thing. So,
well, you can't answer much more than that now, can you?
No.
That is, if it starts and runs and drives, you're well ahead of the game.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, how I get kind of torn because, in the back of my mind, I want to redo the whole car, but I also don't want to touch it.
Yeah, I know that feeling well. Every rust bubble I see under the vinyl hood, the vinyl roof of this GTO of mine, I'm like, man, if I start peeling that vinyl, I'm in big trouble.
Yeah.
So I got a roof, probably got quarters I got to replace. Then, might as well do the trunk lid and the rear tail panel, and there's rust on the doors, and the hood sucks. Trunk floor. Thank God that the floors are solid on that car. But yeah, all the outer sheet metal, I could have reason to replace.
Yeah. And, it's kind of, in my case, it's kind of a microcosm for the way we build the cars at the shop, where you strip them and you do all the mechanical work first and get them to function properly, then you blow it apart for paint. And really, that's all I've been doing over the years is getting my mechanicals dialed in to where it drives the way I want it to. So next up would be a blow apart to repaint it and rewire it. It does need to be wired, and I have the harness and a beautiful American Auto wiring harness sitting in a box. I just got to get to it.
Very nice.
But I just like driving the car, so
yeah,
there's that. Fortunately, I have a couple other cars I could drive, so maybe I need to put myself in the mindset of this year we're going to drive the Riv and do the Galaxy. I don't know. We'll see.
Here's what you need to do. You need to put your AC kit in the Riv while you're driving the Galaxy, and then once that's dialed in, then start blowing the Galaxy apart.
Yeah, actually, the Riv is very close. What I would like to do is I have a GM takeout power window system because mine's one of the 3 Rivieras ever built that don't have power windows and no air conditioning. So yeah, do both of those, and then I would restuff the seat because the driver's seat springs are kind of like sitting in a hole. But yeah, could do that and then switcheroo.
Yep. Yeah, that way you're always driving something that's fully functional.
Yeah,
the way you like it.
Yeah, because the Riv on the other aspects, the brakes are great, the suspension, we did the sway bars and all the bushings and ball joints and all that stuff, and the choke is fixed and the carburetor all works great. And the van had an AC leak. We charged that up last year, and because it's got like 200 feet of hoses that go from the from the dash and under hood to the rear-mounted AC unit, it leaked along the way. So that the rear, I guess, condenser unit is that the condenser in the back, or is that that's a condenser, is out of the vehicle. And about a month and a half ago, for SEMA, for the Hot Rod Industry Alliance, which I'm part of, we had our long-range planning meeting at Vintage Air in San Antonio.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, yeah, and Rick Love and I, we've been friends forever, and we were chatting about stuff, and we did the plant tour, and I'm watching them build the Vintage Air systems, and it's incredible what they do there. It's unbelievable what they do. Because they are smart enough to basically modularize their systems. So the system is designed to fit a particular car, but like some of the cores and some of the hard parts inside are designed to fit other applications.
Sure.
So the custom parts of the controls and some of the engine mount brackets and things like that, and the vents are definitely vehicle specific, but some of these other internal parts are not, which is brilliant. It's a way to maximize efficiencies. And I see them brazing up this core, and it's got all these crazy U-bends, in and out of this core where the refrigerant goes. And I'm looking at that thing and I'm like, wow. I said, I think that I might be leaking there on my van. And Rick's like, well, send it down. We'll fix it.
Ooh.
Oh, right on.
All right.
So I might send that piece down to him and have those guys check it and braze it up and then run some new hoses. And then that thing will be blowing cold again.
Very nice. Very nice.
And again, the van really doesn't need anything. I do want to up the audio. I bought a bunch of stuff to make it a mini concert hall inside, but it starts beautifully. I finally got the carburetor dialed in, and our man Phil in our shop, as a kind of a welding project, he put an exhaust on it for me. He was looking to improve those skills, and I'm like, I'll be your test pilot. Go for it. So he did a great job there, and
that's cool. Yeah, you just need to rake it like the video I sent you of the electric boogaloo van.
Yeah, right. Chop it and rake it.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, what's funny is we had a conversation at the lunch table at the shop one day about actually making my van into a 4-wheel drive.
Do tell.
Well, it's so authentic. 1979. It is how it came out of the conversion company.
Right.
down to the right wheels and everything, and the stance. And it sits kind of high, and it's kind of all over the road the way it drives, just because it is what it is. And so our buddy Good Time Jimmy and I were talking one night. He's like, "Well, you should lower that thing. You should slam it. And I thought that'd be kind of cool. But in that case, it's a very useful vehicle. You can drive it anywhere, and lowering something to where it would look really awesome really makes it a different animal trying to drive it. So I thought, but the other way might be kind of neat. There were some companies that made 4-wheel drive Dodge van conversions, and their axles and transfer cases and stuff. And in fact, there's one for sale right now in Michigan. It's a 78. The body is rusted to nothing, but the springs and all, the whole chassis is great. It's in really good shape. So you don't really ever see lifted Dodge maxi vans, especially customized with, the murals and all the rest, which kind of takes me full circle, because I thought, well, the Cherokee Chief would be a really great off-road thing to go see the desert, but the van.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, if that was 4-wheel drive and lifted a bit, that's your desert crawler right there.
Yeah, especially if the AC is blowing super cold. And you could camp in it, so you pull the bed out and,
Right.
See?
You have so many possibilities, man.
Yeah, next thing you know, they're all going to be apart and nothing's going to be driving. And I'm going to be going, "So, Mike, what's it like to drive your car, man?"
And I'll probably try to spare your feelings. I'm like, it's all right. It's nothing special.
Yeah, as you look at your beautiful dashboard and your air conditioning. And,
blowing my hair back. Woo! It's nice.
Yeah, going down the road. Yeah, I hear you. Well, we'll see. One at a time.
Yeah, for sure.
Just got to see which one. Again, none of them really need it, but it'd be fun to do.
Would be fun to do. I mean, your Riviera stuff I think is necessary. I can't believe you got like one of 3 Rivieras without power windows or air conditioning. That just goes against the whole Riviera nameplate.
It does, but that's also what makes that car cool.
Yeah. Well, it's not very cool in the summertime.
No, you're right. It's not. But, when I tell people that, they're like, "Wow, you got like this super stripper, sleeper Riv, and it's kind of neat." But then you get to the point where, like we were talking about before, it's like knowing the story. I kind of think that sometimes we geek out about stories and history if we're in a position where we're not making our own.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So, like,
somewhat.
You see these people who, at the Cars and Coffee, we all know the guy who's got a car that's not really significant, in the grand scheme of things, but he thinks it's the greatest thing ever, and knows the production numbers and knows the name of the guy that, tightened the lug nuts on the assembly line.
Right.
And you're like, really? And you look at the rest of this person's life, and they're not doing anything. They're just consumed by this car. The flip side is, you meet somebody, like Jocko Willink, who's, running marathons and launching businesses and jetting all over the world. And, you ask him about the car, and it's like, yeah, it's a car, because I'm doing all this other stuff. I don't have time to geek out about this thing. So I'm trying to, in my mind, I thought about this today. I'm like, I wonder, if it would be more fulfilling to be out on the road, out in the desert, making those stories, instead of researching the VIN of my dad's 64 Polara that's been gone for 60 years.
Right.
What matters more,
Yeah, so. For sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
And it all kind of does. I know it all matters. It's all part of the thing.
Sure.
Some people like the history and the stories, and some people don't.
It's not their bag, yeah.
Kelly pointed out, I had posted a picture that I found of actually my dad asleep in the backyard of my house when I was growing up as a kid.
Right.
I saw that on Facebook. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, another picture of the past."
Oh, Lord.
And I'm like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, it's a cool picture. It's a good memory. And she's like, yeah, we live now, you know? and she's like, I know you're not living in the past, but it just, you share a lot of things that are these memory things and history stuff. And, you know, maybe it's something to think about. That wouldn't it be cool if the picture you posted was a current thing you're out doing that was really awesome?
Yeah.
Well, for sure.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Although that picture did replace a picture I took of having a beer at the base of a mountain while skiing. So that was current, you know.
Aha. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
See, there's some current stuff in your life.
For sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. A lot going on. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, what also is going on is the riveting trivia question. And I've been in the background, I've been trying to process this 4-parter that you threw me.
Is that right?
and I don't have any additional stabs at this one. So.
All right. Well, that's fine. All right. Let's get into it then. All right. So I asked you what tire company patented and produced the first radial tire. Yeah. And you said after a lot of going back and forth, you landed on Michelin. Well, congratulations. That part of the answer is correct.
Hey,
it was Michelin.
25%.
Yeah. And you said, and I said, what year was it developed? And you said 1937. It was actually 1946. You weren't too far off in the grand scheme of things.
Well, it's funny because being Michelin, I think they were a little bit busy in wartime Europe.
Could have been.
In the late 30s, you know, they might not have had a lot of time to innovate stuff. So
Sure. So, and then I asked you, what year did it appear on cars? And you said 1952. And you were pretty close. It was 1948 that it first appeared on cars.
Nice.
Yeah. And what car company did the tire company own at the time? And this, you wily SOB, you said Citroen, and it was Citroen. I'm like, son of a bitch! How did he get that?
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So I got half of that right.
You got half of that right. Yeah, that was impressive. I mean, God dang it, you methodically went down and deduced all this nonsense. I'm like, how does he do it?
It was nonsense. That's very lucky because I had never considered that once in my life. I'd never considered when or who did the radial tires. So. Yeah,
so here's a little note here. It says, Michelin owned the leading automaker Citroen, so it was quickly able to introduce its new design, including on the 1948 Citroen 2CV model.
Also known as the Duchevet.
Oh, very nice.
Yes. Well, it's French.
Well, here, listen to this. In 1952, Michelin developed a radial truck tire. So
that's what I meant.
That's what you meant, really.
The truck.
Yeah. I said car, but I really, really meant truck. Yeah.
So I got it 52% right.
Yeah, so not bad, man. Congratulations. Wow. That was a good one.
Well, thank you. Yeah, earned that one. Mm-hmm. Didn't expect it.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, I asked you, I said you probably had the work of Marcello Gandini on your wall at some point. What was it, and who was he? And you said that Marcello Gandini was a photographer who shot the iconic Lamborghini Countach poster that was on the wall of every high school kid in the world at that time period. And that was your final answer. And you know what?
You're not right.
No, you are, as a matter of fact.
What?
Except he wasn't the photographer. He was the designer of the Lamborghini Countach.
Oh, man.
So I'm going to give it to you.
Right on. Holy cats. Wow.
Isn't it great? Yeah,
that is great. That's a good feeling. I haven't had that feeling in a long time. Let me tell you.
We'll just kind of soak in that for a little while.
Yardley, chalk it up in the wind column for me.
That's it. Yeah, Marcello Gandini did the world famous Italian doorstop known as the Lamborghini Countach.
Well, I'll be darned. Gosh dang it. Huh. Well, right on.
And
Well,
somebody once told me that Countach meant like wow, or like some kind of adjective for amazing.
Oh, really? Huh.
And I would have thought it was like an animal, like a cheetah or a cougar or something in Italian. But I'm going to look this up and find out what this actually means.
Well, if that's the case, kids, next time look for our Countach episode of V8 Radio.
Yes. Well, it literally means plague.
No, it does
not. Or contagion.
Oh my. Well, it still fits now, doesn't it?
It's more commonly understood as an exclamation or admiration or surprise, like saying "wow" or "golly."
Oh man, golly!
Well, the first time I saw one of those Lamborghinis, I'm pretty sure "golly" was not the first thing I said.
No, I think not.
But that works too. So there you have it.
Very cool. Very cool. Huh.
Both.
That was a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. All right,
man. Right on.
Well, this was a good episode. It had a pretty high automotive content, I felt.
I felt it, past the threshold. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're good. I think we kept everybody happy in this one.
As a loyal listener, if you have thoughts or commentary on this episode, the Spotify platform is a good one because you can leave comments there these days. We're also carried on YouTube, in which if you watch YouTube videos and you go to watch a V8 Radio podcast video, you're going to look at a still picture for the whole time.
Oh, boy.
Because it's really an audio-based thing at this point. But and, of course, iTunes and all the rest of the places that you tune into your podcast, we can be found. And some of them have comments. We're happy to hear them, of course, on the Facebook page, too. Always willing to entertain the thoughts and enter dialogues with the people that listen and have questions. So we invite you to do that, right?
Right on. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Yeah, we dig the engagement.
For sure. So that's pretty much all I got at this point. And again, apologize for the fairly long time frame between episodes, but hope to get a little bit more in the ball. More importantly, I personally apologize to my co-host, Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clark, for me moving the time repeatedly.
It's all right. I've come to just be able to roll the punches. So
yeah.
It's all good.
Whenever you get that, hey, you want to record a podcast email, you're like, yeah, sure, whatever, pal.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, let me know when you're ready to go, and I'll hop on.
I'll believe you when the record button is pushed.
Yeah, when it is pushed, yeah. When the on-air light illuminates.
Well, I appreciate you hanging with me because
for sure.
Many plates spinning in the air right now, but it was good to catch up.
Yeah, man. Yeah, gosh.
All right.
Actually, we're closing in on. Are we closing in on 7 years or 8 years in May? Of this
tune in
podcast?
next time as we answer the question.
Boom, bam, pow.
Heck yeah. All right. Good to know. All right. Well, that's all I got. Again, if you like this kind of stuff, hit that subscribe button, and the next V8 Radio podcast will zap right into your phones or your buds or your speakers without even knowing it. Just hit that subscribe.
Just accept it.
It's going to happen. And it'll be chock full of automotive content.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm Kevin Ostie for Mr. Mike Q-Ball Clark, reminding you to keep the shiny side up and keep that volume knob all the way into the red. And we will see you next time on VA Radio.